and if you guys can open it on Chrome, it works best on there. I'll also share my screen. And we can get started. So Chris, do you want to get us started with the concept poster and how we can bring it all together, bring the idea and the solutions together?
Yeah, so sure. So with slowly building out and crafting your idea, I guess there's two parts to it, right? There's figuring out what you want to do, so the concept, and then there's also how are you going to communicate the value to your audience or the end user or the value. So in this essence, we have two kind of things that we'd like to touch on today. The first being a concept poster, which will help you kind of convey your idea, help you think through some of the potentially some of the pitfalls, and also help you measure success. And then after that, we're going to take you through crafting your pitch, which helps you really articulate your vision, what kind of problem that you're trying to address, your solution, and then of course some of the business aspects that fall along the lines with your concept. So in the first section of the concept poster, essentially what we like to do here is, what is the concept? Who is it for? So any kind of idea or solution or anything like that always falls for the benefit of someone, right? I mean, that's the essence of design thinking. We're always designing for value or a purpose. So this is a place where you want to articulate, okay, who is this? Who is your main stakeholder? Who is the value or the benefactor of your idea, and what problem of theirs is it solving? And once you can kind of build and articulate that kind of challenge for that specific stakeholder, then you start describing your idea. What is this big idea? How does it work? What are the features and functions, concepts, whatever the case might be? And then finally, what really helps, at least when I go through this, is why might it fail? And this is a really good way of understanding and putting up in front kind of those big pitfalls or some of the gaps that you might need to address moving forward. And also, when you define the why might it fail, generally speaking, when you're pitching this, whether it be to a VC or a judge or whatever the case might be, your general audience, why might it fail is usually the biggest question that the judges are actually going to focus on, because they're automatically thinking that right away. So it's always good to have that highlighted, and then also to think about some of the responses on how you might overcome some of those hurdles and gaps within the concept poster. And then what should we prototype first? This kind of helps you sort of organize your MVP. And again, use this prototype, what should we prototype of test. Always think of the MVP going back to what is the critical component of the problem of the person that you're trying to solve. And then that should be, in essence, the key or core component within your prototype that you should go and start testing and building. From there, you can start building out, features and functions and expanding your idea, but really take a look at the problem that you're solving for the purpose, and the prototype should be at the nucleus of that problem that you're defining. I'm going to stop there for any questions. Does that make sense with everyone?
I have a question actually. May I?
Please.
Yep. Who should we represent this one? It's taking into consideration the stakeholder view. Do we need to do an analysis of the stakeholder as well, or it's on general the topic or the problem which we are trying to solve? What should be the focus in our mind?
I mean, the problem is a byproduct of the person, right? I mean, you won't have the problem if you didn't have the people who required something or need something. So yeah, I would say always take a look at first the stakeholder on what you're solving the problem for. And then sometimes it's kind of fun to do a kind of like a stakeholder map. So what you do is, who is it for? Your main primary stakeholder could be, you know, a person X, for example. And then kind of like a bullseye, you do a secondary kind of circle around that and think about the secondary people that are going to be required in order to make your solution run through, or in order to achieve some kind of vision. I'll give you an example. So let's say someone's going in for a mortgage. Let's say they need a mortgage, right? I'm going to buy a new home. So as a new home buyer, I'm the primary stakeholder because I'm the one that's going to require the mortgage. But there's also going to be a relationship manager potentially at a bank. There could be a bank manager. There could be a mortgage agent. There could be you know, a whole host of secondary people that my problem or need a mortgage, for example, it's going to hit different other stakeholders within the secondary mind frame. So that's also sometimes a good exercise to run in that who is it for, just to give you kind of an expansive view of how else can your product help different stakeholders within that environment or that ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Okay, cheers. My pleasure. Has anybody seen anything like this before? Is this new to everyone, or I mean?
I think from our perspective, we do resource or user mapping, use case map or sort of thing. But this concept is new, actually, to have it in one page. It's a mix. I would say it's a mix of stakeholder pitch and user identification or the problem identification. So I see it. Some questions are coming together. So it's a good representation of one pager. Yeah. So
it's nice that it's actually, and they do
absolutely.
They do blend with each other quite well. I mean, the vision and value proposition, right, is basically answering what problem does it solve for who, right? And then, but then if you take it into a business context, you can start taking a look at, now you can start taking a look at maybe not the specific user or the stakeholder, but then you start growing that in terms of your total addressable market or whatever the case might be. So you start taking a look at target markets and expanding kind of the potential of that solution for that specific stakeholder kind of thing.
I have an advice or an improvement suggestion which would help actually, because what I'm missing here is a flow sort of thing that which should be done after what actually. So here we are moving from stage 1 to 2, but there could be branches. For example, where is the research aspect sitting in this canvas? So where do we put the research?
I think that one. So we had multiple sessions, right? So this one is focused on crafting your pitch and communicating your concept, which is why we're exploring those templates. But we had sessions before in the last couple of weeks that went into. So if you look at
okay. Apologies from my end because I'm joining new.
Yeah, no worries at all. Actually, it might be good for everyone on the call as well. So the link that we shared is accessible to all of you. And if you want your own private board, please let us know. But there are multiple templates in here. So when we started the whole thing, the first step you would do is do your research and build empathy, right? And that is where we explored the persona and the user profile, potentially an empathy map, looking at the customer journey. So we went through these templates and showed you how you do customer research. And then after that, we looked at the ideas and, how do we craft your value proposition? So that's the value proposition canvas, where you're understanding what your customer jobs to be done are, what their gains and pains are, and how your idea and the features, the products and services that you're planning on offering relieve the pain or create certain opportunities and gains to the benefit of your customers. And then once you do that, it ties in nicely to a high-level business case where you look at the proposed solution, the assumptions, value, resources, costs, partners, action items, and next steps. And that's just helping you think through how you're going to go to market with this, right? What all you need to get done to be able to take your solution out to market. What is the problem you're solving, who you're solving it for, that sort of thing, and the resources that you would need. So we've gone through these templates already in the past few weeks. They're available for you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on Slack. But today, post that, our focus is going to be on how do you then summarize your entire idea into a simple concept that you can then communicate via a pitch.
Clear. Yeah. But now it becomes much more clearer, because if it is already done, that means now you are summarizing in one page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's clear. Thanks a lot. It was really needed. I was missing these pieces.
No problem. No. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Cheers. I'm sure you helped out other people on the call too, so that's great. Thank you.
And I think actually, I was just looking at the chat, Chris. Mike Dawson is that we use the business model canvas. Absolutely. So this is where we're coming together to help people be able to communicate the concept, summarize the concept in a very succinct way, and then look at how to communicate that out and craft the pitch. There's a question around, have you got a link to the previous lessons? Yes, they were recorded, and the link is, they're on YouTube actually, under the Hack to the Future playlist. Shireen, do you want to share the link on here to the past?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll add that.
I think that would really help. I was also having the same requirement that if need to see back, that would really help. Thanks a lot.
Cool. All right. Good dialogue, guys. I like it. Okay. So if we're okay from the concept poster perspective, I think it feeds really nicely into your crafting your pitch. And again, Tanaya was just talking about and Mike also on the chat was talking about the business model canvas. And the pitch literally is basically taking the business model canvas, combining it with a concept poster, and then putting it into kind of like a, how we define it here, kind of like an 8 to 9 step sort of concise pitch. If you think about it, I don't know for how many of you pitched before, could be VCs, judges, or whatever it is. Usually you have your 10-slide deck, quote unquote, generally speaking, where first you define the problem, who you're addressing, what is the solution, how are you going to get there, give your hockey stick cost revenue models, and then your route to market, right? So in essence, in your pitch, if you can think about kind of crafting, one concise slide, and it doesn't have to be long. Really, it's just 1 or 2 sentences for each one. If you can really articulate and hammer down on what the real value is, for example, what is the problem? Can you describe the problem in 1 sentence? I think it'll help clarify all of the noise that goes along with your solution if you can really narrow in the problem statement into 1 sentence. And then from there, what you can start doing is taking a look at your different target markets and what the opportunity is within that target market. So it gives you an opportunity to start expanding, who is the addressable market, how are we looking at, and then again, bringing in some of that research that you were just talking about in terms of like whether it be your stakeholders or market segments, whatever the case might be. This would come into that 3rd section. And then finally, when you're speaking about the solution, it's a lot easier to dive into the features and functions of your actual solution, and instead of providing the solution to the problem. And sometimes what actually I just got off a call and I was chatting about this with someone, is that sometimes it's a lot easier if you can take your solution and then put it into a very simple customer journey. So the example that we were just talking about, again, for the mortgage, if you could say, okay, this person's Sunny, was going to get a mortgage, and she was denied a mortgage for some reason, right? So you have a big impact. It's okay, why was she denied? Her problem is she was denied a mortgage. So why was she denied a mortgage? Tuck, 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 reason 1, 2, 3. And then you can say, okay, through this, maybe she met a friend and her friend suggested that she go onto this simple solution app. And in the app, they were able to address tuck, tuck, tuck. So her needs 1, 2, and 3. And then from there, she's the hero, she gets the mortgage, and so be it. So if you can put it together in kind of like a quick little storyboard, your solution, and describe it, the solution, not in terms of a feature function, but more in terms of solving the problem, always thinking back on how it's solving the human need and solving the problem, that'll really help you communicate the value and things like that when you're pitching your solution. I'll stop there for any questions or comments or.
I have a question as usual, because otherwise I would not learn anything. So
Yeah, I love it.
The point is, you said to prepare a user representation in a very short format. What would be the format? Is it a video? Is it infographic, or what should be?
It's totally up to you how
Yeah.
you want to tell your story, right?
Mhm.
Because as Chris was saying, it's about communicating from a customer's perspective when someone is experiencing your product or your solution. What is that journey like for them? What is that storyboard? Because ultimately, a pitch is just a story that you're telling about your product or your
Exactly.
service, right? And there is no right or wrong way to do it. What we're giving you is just a structure, because it's all about architecting the pitch well, because that will then transform your idea into actionable steps and identify through words and images how your product or service is uniquely appropriate for your target customer, but also for the market. So it's up to you on what format you use, how creative you want to get with your storytelling, and the desired impact you want to have as well. I guess I would recommend also maybe doing some homework and looking up who the judges are and what they care about and their profiles, because ultimately you need to think about the audience you're pitching to as well, and why should they care.
Okay, I got it. It's all about the framework, and then all the nitty-gritties need to be decided from our end, that what would be the best fit for the purpose. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So even things like, how many slides should we do? Again, it's up to you, right? We're just giving a framework so that you have a foundation, you got the walls, paint, etc. of a building there. But then every pitch also has its unique characteristics, right? So we're just giving you a structure to build that building, and then how you want to sell it and what in that goes in there is up to you.
Perfect. A good summary. Thanks a lot.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, then maybe I'll just carry on from point number 5 there on the roadmap, and maybe what we mean by roadmap. I don't think the judges, or in this case, are looking for a Gantt chart or anything like that in terms of here are the exact steps and things like that too. It's more on a conceptual. I mean, just to know that you've thought about how you're going to scale, what partners do you need in order to activate this solution, what resources are required, and just to help you see, because I mean, one opportunity or one solution, no one can do it alone, right? So with the roadmap, as long as you're taking into consideration, what other things or components or things like that are required in order to take solution from point A to point B to point C. That's what people are looking for is that you have the holistic approach in a roadmap in front of you, and you understand the different components and the different pieces that are going to be required within each step of the growth stage of your solution. Resources and costs, I mean, that's pretty standard. If you can do even just a quick cash flow statement, I always do it honestly just in a book with a piece of pencil, and then any idea I have, I just draw literally a debit and credit, and I go, okay, what's my input, what's my out, and then just try and summarize it and see if I can break it into some kind of margin. And then it also, in the business model canvas, actually, there's a revenue and a cost section, and it's also important to the resources and costs. When you're describing your growth potential and your costs and your resources, it's also really good to highlight what your revenue model is. So is it a subscription base? Is it are you trying to exit? Is it a buy and try, sort of try and buy aspect? It's always good to kind of think about those different kinds of revenue models and then how that actually might apply to your solution moving forward. And that kind of summarizes the whole ROI. So how are you going to make money? And then another good thing to think about also is maybe in the ROI is to think about it from a SWOT analysis perspective. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So with each kind of revenue model, it's also sometimes really good to just throw on kind of like a quick grid and say, okay, what are the strengths of this revenue model? Like, is it I don't know, is it passive, for example, versus what are the threats? So what kind of players can come in and start impacting that revenue model? Can they disrupt it in any way? Is there any weakness within that revenue model that you might need to address, or maybe need to partner with? So it could be bank or government or loans or grants or something like that, that you need additional income to kickstart it. And then kind of threats. So this could be things like economic threats, like I'll take COVID, for example, like so these could be demographic threats, anything like that you think that might, in the future impact that business model that you need to be aware of in the future. It's always kind of good to take a look at just that quick SWOT analysis when you're thinking about a revenue model in the ROI. And then honestly, 8 and 9, growth potential, I mean, I have various views on this one. I mean, whenever you're pitching, everybody always thinks that, yeah, we're going to start slow, but then we're going to hit that, cross the chasm, and then we're going to go pie in the sky and exit in 5 years. I mean, no one has a crystal ball here, so I don't think the judges are expecting you to, identify your kind of growth potential like year over year for the next 5 years. I think that's actually almost impossible. What they're just trying to look at is, from a growth potential perspective, are there any other following on opportunities that this might create in the future? So for example, if you take the mortgage and lending, and we were talking about like a data integration in terms of like data biases and stuff like that too. And if you go through the mortgage example that I just did, yeah, okay, someone goes, they got a mortgage. So by her getting a mortgage, that could also open up opportunities for, you need insurance for your home. You need perhaps design services for your home. You need to furnish your home. So there's retail aspects. So how can your solution perhaps influence or can you generate maybe an additional revenue stream that through an insurance company by providing them or accessing that kind of data, creates additional benefit or additional uses in the future. That's kind of a way to think about growth potential. And then route to market. What kind of, I guess, strategies? So think about all of the different channels that you can access. So when we talk about omni-channel, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard that term before, right? Omni-channel. So whether it be through, you know, computer or iPad or iPhone, but it's not just that nowadays, right? It's through, you know, social media aspects and what different kind of platforms can you actually create value for this person. So is it through an app, or is it through potentially, is there an API integration that you actually integrate through the banks? So are you an actual offhand app, or are you kind of like a bolt-on product to something else? There are also different ways and different types of ways of accessing this information or accessing your solution. So think about the different ways that not only your stakeholder, but sometimes take a look at that secondary stakeholder value and think about ways on how can they access, or how would they want to access your solution in the future, and then translate that into kind of the route to market. And you say, okay, this is how we're going to penetrate the market, and this is how people are going to receive value from our solution. All right, that's a lot. I'm sorry for rambling, and I hope this was helpful for just one, at least, on the line. Again, any questions or comments or suggestions on how to improve?
One point regarding the return on investment, actually. So what, it should be only one figure, or it depending on all the various aspects which we are taking into consideration?
I wouldn't just go on one figure.
Okay.
In my personal opinion, as soon as you put one figure in front of a judge or a VC or something like that, they will attack, because they would.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They'll be like, how did you come up with that number? How do you know it's exactly that number? Like, and then it just opens up so many different like areas of exposure on your solution, and you really don't want to start defending that. Trust me, from experience, it's painful. So what I would say is talk more about the model and not so much the numbers. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because some stakeholders are very much interested in numbers, and they would attack that one as well, that why you don't have any research on the numbers itself.
I mean, you can give them a quick back of napkin calculation, okay, for sure, right? Yeah. I mean, if you say, okay, this person is going to, let's say, the bank, because the bank implements this kind of data inclusion in their engine, then they're going to they're going to get 10 more loans a day, right, that are approved, which could translate into, 3,000 more loans potentially throughout the year, which could include, if you even just put, 2% financing on top of that, the average might be this much, right, to a bank.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. It's a guess, but at least it helps the people understand. Oh, okay. So if it's only 5, then and maybe it's 3%, or if it's only 2 a day and it's only 1%, that at least people understand the revenue model and how you're going to actually make money, instead of saying, I know that this is going to generate 5 more mortgages per day.
And I guess just to add to that, if you want to think about it like that, just how to structure your analysis to show them the size of the prize. thinking about your total addressable market, what's it called, the segmented addressable market, which is the one that you want to pilot first, and then your share of the market. So that gives you, and then put the value of the markets as well, so that you understand what was the spend on similar solutions last year, for example. So you can go top down or bottom up on these things, but it's what you're trying to show is what is the potential, market potential of your idea, ultimately.
Yeah, thanks. And I have one additional question as usual. The point is regarding resource and costing. Yeah, sometimes I face this issue that the rough estimation also don't look to be normal to the stakeholder, and the stakeholder says that no, we cannot trust this one. It would be more, it would be less, but never highlight what is the final outcome. So if given to you this sort of situation, how would you tackle it? It's low, it's high.
I'm not sure I follow. Sorry.
I would repeat. The point is for the resource costing. Yeah, so resource and for example, operations costing. I represent this cost, and many of the times the comment comes out that it is lower or higher. No, the cost is lower than what we think, and it is higher than what we think. So, and never comes a direction from the stakeholder that, okay, what should be? And as expected, they don't talk too much. The point is how to get better in this area of getting resource costing much more precise.
It's kind of a Pandora's box, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I know. There, I would just say, just really focus on the types of resources that you can use, and make sure, as long as you have a good understanding in terms of like the boxes, like if you're to do a big box or a right, the boxes are a grid. Every box kind of includes one resource, I guess, component or cost component. So for example, if you're taking a look at building a new software, then you would think about okay, I need design, I need architecture, so hardware, I would need resource, time and equipment, right? I would need potentially sort of like overhead. So where are you going to build it? So those are like the boxes in the grid, right? And then from there, as long as you have the boxes pretty well laid out, then you can take guesses just through research, usually, or ask around. Experience is always the best. So if you know anybody who's done something similar, maybe you can ask them and just say, hey, how much did this person cost, or how much does this software cost, or just go online and just figure out, you know what I mean?
Chris, I would like to add a quick point there. Basing it on the technology and driving it for the MVP, minimum viable project. For that, we will have a baseline set, because there we will not have huge load. We will be using one key solution architect or a developer, and then base your resource costing on the cloud, so that the public cloud would help us the cost. There are a lot of data out there where the VCs or the people who are judging the cost part, there is a baseline out there. So
Yeah.
if we base an MVP, and for this we are expecting with say probably 100 hits per second or an hour, this is our baseline, and exponentially we will be looking at this cost with this load is something that will always be safe. So base it out on your MVP, take a small sample space, so that it will look realistic, and you will also have an idea of the components, the human resources that goes into it, and technology. Definitely you should be in a position to go ahead and put out the cost very explicitly. So that gives that authentic look for the costing, and then it will be a factor of that which will be coming to the production scale one. So thereby you will be safe on the costing side.
That's a great point. The good thing about the cloud-based solution is it is a lot clearer. Obviously, you have to make guesses because you don't know the compute cost and others, but it is achievable. The problem which I face is when it is a UI UX requirement. Okay, how many resources I need for a UI UX requirement of 2-3 pages or 4 pages and likewise. So that I have no clue actually.
So resource costing right now, base it again on the one senior plus a junior developer will be good enough for an MVP for the UI UX side.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
If you need a baseline in terms of how much they cost, I always go to Fiverr. And I go.
Okay.
Yeah. That's anytime I'm ever trying to try something or do something, I go to Fiverr for anything.
That's a good tip, bro. Thanks a lot.
And you get a really good judge of like scale of quality versus cost, right?
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure. So, any other questions? Yeah. Tanaya, anything you want to add?
No, I think you're covering it all. I'm good. Do you guys have any questions, even outside of the pitch? Anything that you want advice on or help on before the submission deadline, which is on the 4th at 5 p.m. GMT?
I think from my perspective, I need to go through this YouTube as fast as possible because I got the feel of it, but need to go through. And I have already set up a meeting with you guys for the pitch segment specifically.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Great. And then one thing Tanaya mentioned, which I think is great. I mean, this is just a blueprint, right? So these are just suggestions based on experience and some of the research and templates and stuff like that we've used before in the past. You don't have to use all of it, and I wouldn't say follow everything that we're doing step by step. You need to be able to just use the pieces that you feel are important to you, because at the end of the day, we just want you to communicate the value and the message of the benefit of your solution to the problem that's being solved. So just keep that in mind. And I mean, whether you use a different revenue model and SWOT analysis and all that fun stuff, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, what matters is that you're able to communicate the value of your solution and how it solves the problem. That is the baseline for any pitch, right? Sales 101. I should say value selling 101. There's also a really good TED Talk. Let me see if I can find it. That was on pitching. you might, I don't know if anybody, I'm sure a lot of people here are TED Talk junkies like me.
Yes. East or West, TED is the best.
What was it called? Pitching ideas.
In the meantime, I would like to ask a question about the user analysis. Yeah, we do user interviews and others sort of thing. Is it also needed here, or I could take myself as a user and then evaluate it? What should be the?
I mean, if you're a benefactor of the solution, then I think you're in a great position. Yeah, for sure to use it.
Okay.
Yeah, think about how you would feel and how you would go through the journey, and you don't even have to do an empathy map.
Okay, got it.
You already know. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I can't. Anything else?
And what is this route to market actually in the 9th point? Once again, is it how we are going to deploy the solution, or what is it eventually?
Yeah, route to market. Just think, and then just going back to the discussion that we had around, think about the different channels. So how are you
omni-channel? You mentioned about omni-channel.
Yeah, the omni-channel. Okay. So think about the different channels on how are you going to get to the market. So, I mean, how are you going to generate demand for your product? How are you going to deliver your solution to the market? Those are the different kind of routes, I think, to your solution. So two main ones is one, how are you actually going to deliver the product or the solution? Like whether is it going to be through cloud? Is it going to be through you know, a website? Is it going to be through a portal? Is it going to be whatever the case might be? And then another route to market is also how are you going to generate demand? So think about you know, social media. Is it going to be word of mouth? Are you going to host info sessions? Are you going to whatever the case might be, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, pleasure.
And in the next session, I saw there is another session. Is it going to be a different topic, or it's going to be a repetition of this topic?
There's another session. I don't think so. I think it's an office hour.
Yeah. The session we have later is more, any questions you might have, whatever topic it is.
Okay. Thanks.
And Mike just shared the Airbnb pitch deck in the chat, and I fully agree. In fact, we use the Airbnb pitch deck as our template during my MBA when I was doing this stuff. So, and I know it's also used in the Stanford entrepreneurship and innovation course that they teach as well. They use the Airbnb actually as their kind of like structure template and everything like that. So I double thumbs up to you, Mike. Thanks for sharing. Totally agree.
But is it somewhere telling how the conceptualization of this was done, or it's the byproduct or the end product which we are talking about in this documentation, the slide share?
Well, it it gives you a really, it helps you kind of understand, if you can think of Airbnb before it ever even started, right? It's a little hard now because it's grown into this, you know, uber mega. I mean, basically the biggest, largest hotel in the world without actually owning any assets. But just take a look at it and think of the concept, right? Think you were the CEO of Airbnb and you're pitching Airbnb concept to other people, and think they've never heard this before. So when you go through them, I mean, I'm just quickly going through it. They do it first. What is the problem, right? Problem is price, hotels, no easy way of access, right? Or no easy way to exist. So going back to the mortgage example, right? Let's say Sony goes and she doesn't get a mortgage, and the reason why she didn't get a mortgage was because of 3 main points. Problem 1, 2, 3, right? And then you go through, okay, the solution. So the solution gives a way for Sony to answer problem 1 with not getting the mortgage, problem 2 without getting the mortgage, problem 3. And they did it here as well. They save money, make money, share culture. So the slides excel. Yeah, sorry, question? Oh, okay. So the way they have the slides laid out here is a little bit different from our numbering, but I mean, again, nothing's really cast in stone as long as you're covering these major topics. So target market, for example, they use market size, and then, oh, is everybody still there?
Yeah, we still hear you, but
Yes,
we've
sure,
lost
sure.
the screen share actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you lost the screen share. Okay, I'll do that again.
Yeah, so I would suggest just that link that Mike just shared. It's really good, and it helps if you take the link that Mike just shared and that presentation, and then kind of put it against what we're talking about in the mural and what we've talked about today. Hopefully you can draw a couple of inferences in between the two. Just see how they're communicating the value, communicating their solution, and then also some of the growth potential and the product, and the resources that are required, and then thinking about the ROI, so they have business model here. But you know, they're all interchangeable terms. Market adoption, so that's route to market. Competition, so we were talking about the SWOT analysis, right? Competition, competitive advantages, again, SWOT analysis. And then, yeah, and it's 11 slides.
And regarding the pitching, what is your general view in which segment we need to catch the attention? Is it 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds? What is the puzzle here?
Well, usually I think the pitch is usually time-based, right? You only have, let's say you have 10 minutes to communicate the pitch. So if I was thinking, if you were to go over, right, and you weren't able to cover everything, you definitely want to first focus on the problem and make sure people understand and grasp the problem that you're trying to solve. I would say above all else, that is the most important aspect that you need to be able to. Oh, for finalists, the pitch is 3 minutes and then 5 minutes for Q&A. Okay, so you have 3 minutes. You need to define that problem. And then you need to and then you tell how the solution solves that problem. I'd say in 3 minutes. And then if you can show some kind of demo as you're describing how the solution is solving the problem in 3 minutes, even better. If you can give some kind of visual example and talk through that visual example on how it's solving the problem. So not just like, if you click on this button, it does this. It says, by going in here, you're able to solve that need. Yeah, good point. Also, last project winners and stuff like that, there's submissions. You'll see a lot of it is very much, you know, customer journey. They have a problem. This is how it solves the problem. And then the question and answer, honestly, as long as you have like you know, the roadmap, some resources, cost, the ROI and stuff like that, have that as part of the appendix, because you'll want it if the judges do ask. You always want to be prepared. If they don't, great.
And the one thing I'd add to that is, if there is a question they ask and you don't know, or you genuinely don't have the answer or haven't thought about it, say it. Say it. Do not try and pretend to make up numbers and make up things, because they will follow up and it will be quite transparent in that moment. And there is no value to it, right? Because we're all, I mean, people realize it's a hackathon. You've not had dedicated like months and months to work on it. It is just an idea. It is about how you thought through the idea, how you identified the opportunity, how you solved the problem, that, you know, the fact that you've thought through a future vision for your concept. It's about that. It's about validating that. It's not about, if you don't know the numbers, that's fine, but just say it. don't try and make it up.
Yeah. Agreed. Cool. Well,
yeah.
If no more questions, I just want to say thank you for your time.
And thank you, Chris, for leading this today.
Pleasure.
And feel free to reach out to either of us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have via Slack, or if you want to book time. Just so you guys know, tomorrow is a holiday in the UK, and Chris is also off because it's a holiday in the Middle East. But definitely reach out to us on Slack if you have questions, and we'll try and answer as many as we can.
And how this 4th April schedule is going to be? Is it from the morning itself we are starting, or when is it? How it looks like?
So the 4th of April is just it's the deadline for the submission. So
okay.
By 5 p.m. GMT, essentially you need to have your submissions in, because then it'll close.
And a novice question: what is submission according to you? So is it putting in the Slack, or it's there is a link where? No,
you have to submit your idea and your pitch deck or whatever you want to submit, video potentially, through DevPost. So if you go to DevPost, it has all the instructions for your submission.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Shireen just shared a link as well where you can submit your project.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I see it now. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you all for your time. Thanks a lot, Chris and Tanaya, for leading the session, Dinesh and everyone. We have another session later today. That would be an office hour where we will have more mentors joining. So if you still have any questions, feel free to join us there. And yeah, good luck with your submission. The deadline is the 4th of April again. We're all looking forward to see your project. And meanwhile, happy hacking. Good luck with it.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.